Okay, we're here with Ben Bischoff. He's going to tell us a little bit about his project and all the data wrangling and visualization he's done. So, Ben, maybe you can first start by explaining 30 seconds or so what your research question was and why you chose it.
I was just looking for some fun data sets, something to work off of, and something that really stuck out to me was this data set on scientific publication retractions. So people who submit or publish scientific findings, and then they find out they're wrong in some way, or they're just copying someone else's work, so they have to retract it. And I wanted to kind of dig deeper into that. Found this really nice data set that I can work with it. So it's kind of just seeing what the data set could offer and then what I could find based off of that.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, data is usually pretty messy and takes some work. I can see you're doing some formatting here, but what would you say was the biggest headache you came across in terms of cleaning, merging, whatever, preparing the data?
Yeah, I would say a lot of it was trying to,
And you can full the screen.
I think a lot of it was kind of this up here section dealing with the strings. A lot of these publications, they aren't published by one singular country. A lot of them collaborate, and there's a lot of things like that. And so having to separate each rows based off of um, the countries and making sure I separate it on the right thing. And then when I come to counting it later, making sure I'm not double counting entries and using unique IDs and things like that.
Yeah, so tell me a little bit about how the data is structured here. You read it in with a CSV, but then you're separating it based on semicolons as well?
Mhm. Yeah, and so I was able to, yeah, it was formatted in CSV, and then each section, for at least the countries, they had the semicolon separating each country out, and so I was able to filter that out, and I could did the same thing for subjects, um, kind of in the data finding, trying to figure out a good question. Thought subjects could have been a fun thing to look at.
Okay.
But I've mainly stuck with countries, trying to figure out what countries publish the most, how many retract the most, and kind of looking at that a little bit more.
These are scholarly, academic, peer-reviewed journals.
Yeah.
All right, well, maybe we can scroll down to some of the visualizations, unless there's other wrangling you want to point out or highlight.
No, not really. I did. So it's actually something my wife told me about, told me I should do, but we'll see it a little bit later in the visualizations. But you can see here, the data set only had what was retracted. They didn't have their total publications.
Okay.
And so my wife was like, well, if they're retracting a lot, maybe that means they're publishing a lot. And I'm like, that's the really smart thing. And so sure enough, China had a ton of retractions. And it turns out they had a ton of retractions because they're publishing a lot of publications.
Okay.
And so that's seen there. And then when it comes to like percentages, they sure retract a lot, but when it comes down to it, Russia and Saudi Arabia, they're retracting more
Huh.
when compared to what they're publishing.
Does that say 100%?
Yeah, I'm going to be totally honest here. There must have been something wrong with the data that I collected, because it originally had the retractions more than the total published,
Mhm.
because I got the total publications from a different data set and pulled it in.
Oh,
So I truly must have been something wrong there. So it would have been over 100%,
yeah.
which doesn't sound right. So I just kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. Overall, Russia's retracting a lot of publications.
Okay. So the retractions and the total publications are two different
Data sets, yeah.
data sets.
Mhm.
Okay. Yeah. Well, and are there other visualizations and wrangling happening below here?
Yes. What else I wanted to look at was when you look at the publications over time, the data set with the retractions had it from like the 1700s, and then like, oh, here was a retraction in the 1900s, and then so squeezing it down, most of the activity is in 2010 to 2025.
Okay.
And so I kind of had to focus in on that is where most of the retractions are happening. And I noticed this big spike right here, kind of 2022 to 2024, a lot of retractions were happening.
Mm.
And so I was wanting to see which of the top five countries kind of led to all those retractions. And what we see from the general shape of all of them is that most of them have retractions during that time period. That's definitely something that could be looked into more. Like why in that time period, why are there so many retractions among all these countries?
Yeah.
But the most biggest contributors to that big spike is China, of course, because they're publishing a lot and retracting a lot, and then India as well is doing that.
Did you have any anecdotal evidence as you looking through, kind of taking a guess?
I couldn't find anything to really
Okay.
speculate on.
Yeah, I would have guessed maybe is that COVID that everyone's like publishing all this stuff and then they're
Realizing a
taking
few
it
years
back.
later, and then you take it back.
I don't
Yeah,
know.
I can see that. Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess so. If for your decision maker, or maybe you're an editor at an academic journal, or you're a policymaker, what um, insights or advice would you give to someone in a decision making role related to journals and research?
I would definitely say maybe give it a few years before you truly trust some publications because it does seem to have that pattern of where it's published and then takes 2, 3 years to be like, okay, then we retract it. And
Oh,
that's definitely something I could have definitely looked into more is kind of the average length of how long something is out before it gets retracted.
yeah. Were you able to map back article by article, like uh, this particular retraction can map back to this particular publication? Were you able to get to that level where you'd be able to calculate the time passed?
I definitely could have, hindsight 2020, that could have been cool to look at.
Yeah.
Because in the original data set, it had both the published date and then also the retraction date.
Okay.
And so I was kind of working with those to get the time frame down for these last two graphs. But no, that definitely would have been
Yeah.
something cool to look at.
But that's your sense anyway from,
Yeah.
okay. Well, very interesting. Thank you for walking us through your analysis and best of luck going forward, budding analyst and data scientist. Thanks, Ben.